Grand Rising, beautiful beings. Today is Monday in man's calendar and the sun's coming up. It's going to be another warm day, which is just an anomaly for September. But we do, if you think back, we have had periods where they've been hot during spring. So I'm not surprised, but what we do need is rain. So can we all do a rain dance so we can call in the rain? That would be awesome. Plants are needing it, dams are getting low, rain tanks are getting low. That's when you become quite conscious of water and how it also sustains life with Mother Earth and Father Sky, Grandfather Sun as well. Anyway, rain. Let's do a rain dance. I think every time I come on live I say, oh, it's been an interesting few days. It's been an interesting few days. What's a pleasant surprise is being able to transition through them in a different way, which is healthier and quicker for me. And I do believe, and I'm gonna be a supporter of my own work, and it's not my work, I'm gonna be a supporter of doing the work because it works. And it's for me because I think I'm methodical. I have an analytical brain. Anyway, however I perceive the world and interface, the way I do things is having a method, going through the steps of understanding how to really helps me be able to implement it. If I don't know how to, you could be fumbling in the dark for a long time, and my mind just goes to, okay, well, how do we shift this ship around? And who was I talking to? We're talking about something, and it's akin to a freight train slowing down to reverse anything. Can you imagine it? How heavy and how long it takes a freight train to stop and then start reversing. It takes time. It's not going to be this stop, start, reverse like that. And I hate to say it, the older we are, the more effort you got to put in, because we've allowed it to go on for too long and we need to do something about it. So we've got to put the more effort in because it's been more ingrained. It's had longer time to live in us. And, you know, when you're younger, it doesn't have that longer time to live in you. So you're more pliable. That's another rabbit hole that I could squirrel down. So it's like getting smart. It's like let's get smart now and let's think with our hearts. I like that rhymes. So that's what led me on my path to self-love, because there was just so much self-loathing and self-sabotage. I think self-sabotage has probably been my excuse me, has been my biggest nemesis, is self-sabotage, and where that comes from and why. It's almost like my own inner trickster to learn a lesson. It's like, oh, okay, well, let's go and learn self-trust. So things happen along the way that forces you to develop self-trust. Otherwise, you've already got it. You're already trusting yourself. You don't need to learn to do it. So I had to learn to self-trust. And that's what led me to these seeds. It's always been this journey of, and I know I shouldn't, but I think what came to mind just then was this self-perfection. And finding the balance in that so it doesn't become this unobtainable goal, this unobtainable belief. Instead, it comes down to the ground level, to the earth level, to the here and now level of loving and accepting you as you are, where you are, how you are, and going from there. It's the only way. So learning, and this is where self-reflection comes in. That's your self-exploration, self-correcting. That's the self-awareness, the self-soothing and the self-knowing, that's self-acceptance. And they're the first 3 seeds we touched on. There's 7 seeds. Self-reflection takes root, blossoms into self-awareness. Self-awareness takes seed, and that blossoms into self-acceptance. Self-acceptance takes seed, and that blossoms into self-respect. Self-respect takes seed, and that blossoms into self-trust. Self-trust takes seed, and that blossoms into self-confidence. Self-confidence takes seed, and that blossoms into self-love. And that's how I helped myself walk forward. So to self-reflect, try meditation to listen to your thoughts. Self-awareness while you're meditating, journal. While you're actually consciously choosing to listen to yourself, to get to know yourself. Journal and pad, journal it down, pad it down, pen it down, and take notes. And then that way, when you come across something that's a bit gnarly, when you come across something that you just go, oh, come on, you know, that's not true, that's when you've got to start self-correcting. And then that comes, with all of that comes the self-acceptance, because all of a sudden you're realizing, oh, I am the way I am because of what's happened to me, because of all those things. And we just start to see the world a bit differently. It's all about raising your vibration. It's all about seeing the world with new lenses. And giving that, because you're putting the effort in, because you're giving it all you've got, you then get so much out of life. You start to see the different things because that's what you're focusing on, that's what you're looking for, because that's what fills your cup up, because that's how you want to feel, because that's the way you want to walk, that's the way you want to talk. Your world does start to change, especially when you start to embody and really understand a lot of the spiritual and philosophical, I can't talk, I can't say it this morning, it's too early. Philosophical, thank you. Just had to slow the brain down. Teachings, understanding about quantum physics, the holographic universe. It's really expanding your mind, because what you've already known, if you're in a process, or you're not happy with life, or you've got issues going on, or there's something that you're working on, with what you already know, obviously you don't know something that's going to help, because if you did, you wouldn't be going through it. You wouldn't be thinking it, feeling it, experiencing it, reliving it. Your knowledge is limited, so we actually need to go outside of ourselves, and that can be spiritual, listening to your guides, meditating, to find solutions sometimes. So that's where reading, research, listening to podcasts, listening to audio books, getting therapy, different modalities, that will help you find your solutions. But you've got to do it, because your mind's limited, and you've got to make that effort to go out and find it. And then once you find, you go, oh, that resonates, and yeah, I'm going to try that. That's where it all is. Even in Buddhism, in Buddhist teaching, says it's in the practice. It's in the mundane, the boring, everyday life. Doing the dishes, cleaning the toilet, making the bed, doing the shopping, meeting friends, tending the garden, chop wood, carry water, tend garden. That's where the magic is. That's where you bring your awareness to, with that attitude. Thank you, that's a butcher bird. And that's your approach to life, and then you start to see it change. And so these seeds will help you walk a different path. These seeds will help you feel a different way about yourself and your life and where you're heading, which is going to be healthier and brighter, but you've got to do the work. And so these seeds are just simple steps that you can take every day to help yourself change what's going on in your life. If you haven't got anything going on, that's freaking brilliant. I take my hat off to you. That shows a certain level, or it could either be a level of maturity or a level of denial. Anyway, self-respect is the linchpin to everything. It's actually where we start to walk what we've learnt so far about the self-reflection, the self-awareness and the self-acceptance. Self-respect is where we actually start to put it into practice. If you can respect another being for whatever qualities you see in them, but you know you have respect for them, you've got to give that respect back to yourself. And because you know how to respect someone else, what's blocking you from respecting yourself? So this is where we get to self-correct, to understand that, no, your values matter. And once you start living by your values, things do start to shift, because your attitude, so that means your energy, that means your vibration, your frequency is shifting and changing. That has an impact on the world. That has a ripple effect on the energies around you, the vibration, the resonant field. So what's going to resonate back to you? Your vibration is what you're holding. So when we start to self-respect, and it's baby steps, you're not going to get there, like I said, that image of the freight train, it's going to take time. But the more you put the effort in and the more you try it, the easier it gets, because you're forming the neural pathways in your brains for it to become the more ingrained habit and behavior. And your body's got to unlearn its holding pattern of the attitude that you've had towards yourself. That's going to take time to change as well. So it's understanding the body's ingrained with a certain vibration frequency, so many, because of what we've been thinking, feeling, walking for so long. It's going to take time for the actual physical vehicle that we're in to change its vibration. So expect it to be clunky, awkward, and not getting it right. That's how you actually refine it. That's how you define it. That's how you learn it. That's how you live it. And I promise you, you do walk to self-respect. And sometimes it is uncomfortable, because things that were familiar, not necessarily comfortable, but things that were familiar that you're putting up with or settling for or participating in or contributing to, you start to see them through a different lens, and you're going to make different choices. So that can be tricky and uncomfortable and isolating, and all sorts of things that go with the shift and change. But this is the whole part of it, because we can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. This is where we put in doing something different to get the results that we're seeking. And tell you what, it can be a lot of fun. And you're learning new things and new tools and new trades and new skills, and that's a good thing. And when we start to work the brain, we start to have a different attitude. It's when we become really small, our world becomes small, and we get stuck in our way of thinking, but we're not doing anything about it. You've really got to look at that in the mirror and go, what is that about? And just because the brain's saying one thing or the body saying another thing, don't let the negative lead. Don't let the negative win the argument. You just go, no. And no matter how uncomfortable or tired, or you just don't want to do something, just give it a go, even if it's for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Do something different, feel something different, and start shifting obviously your own power struggle with yourself between the left and the right hemispheres. And the left doesn't want to let go. That thinking brain doesn't want to let go. It's been in this false illusion of being in control for so long, and you're so attached to so many things that actually weigh you down, that actually keep dictating your experiences because you're carrying it around. So it's really learning to let go of the past so you can start to embody new for a whole new adventure that's ahead of you. And self-respect is the linchpin to all of it. You got no self-respect. How are you going to love yourself if you don't self-respect? And how do you self-respect if you don't know who you are? To me, it just makes so much sense that that's the seed, the most important seed, because it shifts everything. It shifts from the mental. So all that reflection and awareness and acceptance, that's in the mental realm. That's us doing the kind of like the inner work. The self-respect is when we start to step it out of ourselves and into the garden by our words, actions, and deeds, our thoughts. It's actually consciously choosing, and it can be tiring, and it can probably make you pissed off because that side of you that doesn't want to do it will probably up the ante so you go back to the way you were. It's just how strong is your desire for this change? What's your discipline like? If you've not had a discipline before, it depends on your attitude, how you approach discipline. Instead of seeing discipline as something negative and punishment, you see discipline as, oh my God, I'm going to be refining and honing myself. I'm going to be lifting myself up. So that becomes your discipline of why you're doing this, and really want to do it, because you're going to have to. And yes, there are times where it does get a bit too much and you need that time out, and then it seems like it's one thing after another, and when it rains it pours and you're like, oh, but that is when all these teachings, all these truths, these universal laws, you get to apply and you live. And then that becomes, you're telling your body something different. You're telling your whole being something new, something more improved. That's a good thing. Because realizing you are a spiritual being having this amazing human experience, what some people call the hell realm. And yeah, it can be. So don't become attached. Don't become attached to what's going on around you. Find yourself so that your life experience is the life you want to live and the life you're loving. Because that changes your vibration. That changes your whole cellular structure. That changes your frequency. And then that's what you sit in. That's what you sit in every day. And when that starts to become harmonious, when that starts to become lighter, when that starts to become more strengthened, more fortified, you do become, well, your quality of life just does improve. So self-respect is self-worth, it's self-care, it's living by your values. That's a form of self-care. So like we said, self-care is not chocolates and hot baths. Self-care is really like my body is, I'm realizing it's so sensitive these days. I think I did so much damage growing up through stress, diet, alcohol, medicines. I think especially stress, and having an aversion to gluten, but still eating it. I think it's either that or it's, just an immune issue. So I can't do eggs anymore. I had a huge body reaction to eggs, and it's something to do with the proteins and how the kidney processes it. And I'm just going to try plant proteins for a while. Go to more live food to see how that feeds my body and how that I feel physically. Because when you're inflamed, it's really not a nice experience. It's tiring, it's dragging, it's really not a comfortable feeling when it's like you're having not an allergic reaction, but your body is reacting to something. It's really having a huge effect. That's when you got to listen to your body, and I think that came up in the new moon reading. You've got to listen to your body. That's the healing. That's what's underneath it all. And it's listen to your body physically. So that's, for me, generally by what I'm eating, what I'm not drinking, and what I am drinking. It's what I'm putting into it as fuel, listening to those physical reactions and symptoms. But then it's also feeling the body to also check in with my emotions. And is that aligned with my thoughts? Because I could be thinking one thing, my body feeling another, and I'm interpreting it not necessarily correctly because of a like a narrative that I have attached to the memories of that physical experience or that emotional experience in the past. You set up a narrative attached to your memories, and your memories can elicit physical responses, emotional responses, mental responses. So with that narrative attached to those memories, that's in your body. And I lost my train of thought then. It's changing those narratives as well, because that can be affecting your body emotionally. It's like detoxing on a lot of different dimensions. So listening to my body is that's part of my self-care, because then I'm showing that I do care about how I'm feeling. I do care about how this what they call a meat suit, this physical body, because we are avatars. How am I actually treating, and this is why they call it a temple. This is me residing in my temple. How am I looking after my temple? Am I filling it up with shit? Not necessarily, but I'm having reactions to certain foods. So I've just got to look at that and go, no, my quality of health or quality of physical robustness is really important to me. So that becomes a priority. And that always has done. And talk about self-respect is, I remember being in situations where I wouldn't eat certain foods, even in an office environment, and people would mock me for not wanting to eat certain foods, and I'll be sitting there going, well, if only you knew what was in that Cadbury chocolate, you wouldn't be eating it, because the logical mind, the rational mind would go, oh my God, that's just poison. That's just going to make me sick and addicted and da-da-da. Why would I do that to myself? But we don't even question it. And those heavily manufactured, processed muffins and cakes that's full of sugar and fake shit and stuff like that, is like, the logical mind would go, that's not food. I won't eat it. And that's where I was coming from, not in a mocking way, but going, hey guys, don't mock me. This is actually me showing myself self-care and self-respect, because I know if I do eat that, I'm going to be one sick woman. To me, that's showing myself self-care. And then it's looking at, the kind of things that you watch, the kind of information you take in, the people you associate with is really important as well. Do you compromise yourself to fit in? Do you just go along with certain behaviors and attitudes and things just to fit in, or to be liked, or to be friends with everybody, and ignoring the the warning bells and red flags, and then only to have that bite you on the ass later? That again, that's through learning and practice and implementing new ways, because you could have a completely different reason for doing those things that needs healing and bringing back into alignment. And it's not a judgment, it's a care. It's a care. So self-respect in the dictionary means a feeling that one is behaving with honor and dignity. The first three seeds lead you to here, self-respect. This seed begins the recognition of the living being that is you, the essence that makes you you, beyond the human conditioning and exaggerated mind chatter. This seed sows that doing, that change in behavior based on the first three seeds. And I was just thinking as I was reading that about the kind of information you take on from social media and television and the internet. It's like, really, please discern what you take in and what you watch and what you believe. And any belief, I dare you, or I encourage you, not dare you, I encourage you to go and research the opposite. Because there's always, if that information's out there, just don't always be one-sided. And this is what science is meant to be all about. If you want to science it, is always deducing it down with questions, not coming to a full stop period, that's it. because we don't know everything and they don't know everything. So don't just trust what they think the science is. Do your own research looking at both sides of the fence, and that can include politics, that can include policies with this yes-no voice thing going on. I encourage you to look at both sides of the story, because then you're actually practicing wisdom. There you're actually practicing discernment, and you're making it an informed choice, not a biased choice. And from that information, you can sit with that information and feel into yourself and then make the choice and decision. Then you can live with your consciousness. Instead of just going, oh, that's what everybody else is saying to do, so I'll go and do that. And you got to know, with television and media, they lie. That's the entertainment. That's to get your attention. It's so exaggerated, because when we just keep needing it to be more exaggerated to get our attention and make it more sensationalized, and fear and all this spin. You know, governments know how to put the spin on. You know how magazines know how to put the spin on, touching up photographs. There's just so much spin in the world. So just don't naively, which I used to be, very naive, and didn't question anything, but now I do. And that helps me make choices and decisions and actions based on what suits me, because I am that individual. I am showing myself self-respect. I am listening to my own voice. I am listening to and giving backing to me. And I think more of us need to do that, to find ourselves and our strengths. So to self-respect is to act from your higher mind, not listen to the traumatized mind. In putting self-respect into action, it actually begins to heal the parts of the traumatized mind and being. To know that underneath it all, you are a good person. You are a good person. And even if you have made mistakes or fuck-ups, and that's not all of you, it's just an aspect of you. And if people can only see that one aspect of you, and that goes for yourself too, you looking at people and only seeing one aspect of them and then making that their whole, then judging them based on that one aspect, that's very small-minded, that's closed-minded, that's judgmental, it's a lot of finger pointing. So there's something going on inside of you, you're projecting it out. Step back and see the whole aspect, and then you can go, oh, it shifts your whole attitude, it shifts the whole attachment to the story, because you're not narrowed in and focused in, because that's what it's like in our own lives when we come in and narrow it down. If it's something negative, you know how that feels, and it's really uncomfortable there. But if you're focusing and narrowing down on something that's a dream, or you're building something or creating something, you're dreaming something, you know, but that starts to grow and expands and comes up and out. The negative starts to hone in. So it's opening yourself up. It's pretty much what it is, instead of us being closed and shut down. It's discerning to know what to let in and to know what to let out. Your worth is not based on past actions or experiences, but rather on the choices you make now. Otherwise, and to believe that people can change. If you know within yourself that you are healing, you're changing, you're maturing, there are shifts, and you've got to believe that for other people as well, not just for yourself. Because then you're giving the other person, it's like all of a sudden that strengthens the belief in yourself too, that you're changing, when you can look at other people can change. I'm just going to, no, I'm going to keep talking. My landlord's just over there. So self-respecting is a seed that shifts it all into action, to find out what your values are, so that you can start living by them, acting and behaving as if your values matter, because they do. And we all hold different values. So getting to know yourself, again, the first 3 steps is getting to know what you value most. And when you start to live by them, it changes your world. The white cockatoos have just arrived up in the tree. So, self-respect, living by your values, shows yourself that you value yourself. So the why you live your life is in alignment with how you live your life. This shows yourself that what you believe in, what change you wish to see in the world, matters to you enough that you'll start to walk towards it. And baby steps is enough to get you there. I find when we do our baby steps, you get to change, you get to shift. When we do leaps and bounds, trying to get there in a hurry, trying to get things to turn around, it's not embodied, and you'll make mistakes, you'll slip up, and then it's too easy to go back to what's already ingrained. So even if it's baby steps, at 1% improvement each day, we can all do 1% improvement, so you don't become overwhelmed then, and you don't add more stress to your life. It's just that 1%, but you've got to keep doing that 1%. So for me, my 1% started yesterday by having a beautiful salad for lunch, and a really light dinner and a smoothie. So I'm going to be doing more live foods for my body because that's what it feels like it needs. And because I'm starting to live by my values and actually putting them into my everyday life, by valuing and putting into action behaviour and research, both practically and theoretically, this plants the 5th seed, self-trust. So putting into action behaviour and research, you're showing yourself that you're prepared to do things differently, and so that starts the seed of self-trust. Self-trust is self-faith and self-protection. Try boundaries. And for a lot of us, this is like, new language, new ways of expressing and living. And it's not just personal, you can see it in the collective. There's more people talking and recognizing boundaries. And when you've not had boundaries before because of you've not been shown, taught, or felt that I used to think boundaries was judgment. But then as you mature and grow and you realize, you think boundaries actually are really healthy and important, and you can be absolutely emanating unconditional love and have boundaries, and you're coming from that space of boundaries like a mother does to her child. You've got to have boundaries, and you do it with such love as you're teaching them and guiding you about you, how to treat you, and what the values that you see in the world. We're actually teaching by our boundaries. So try boundaries. So what are some boundary setting sentences? I can't do that, but I can help you find someone who can. I appreciate the gesture, but in the future I would prefer. I can't take on additional responsibilities right now. I'm not comfortable discussing this topic with you. I'm uncomfortable with what you just said did. And you're probably uncomfortable thinking about saying those words. Thanks for your concern, but I can handle this. I can't attend, but I appreciate the invitation. I don't give you permission to do X to me. I can't do X, but I'm open to trying Y. I don't feel safe, so I'm going to leave. I won't be spoken to in that manner. I'm allowed to change my mind. Thanks, but I'm not interested. I wish I could, but I can't. No, thank you. No. They're boundary setting sentences. So self-trust means consistently staying true to yourself. self-trust. So if you want to learn trust, so then you can go out into the world with a different attitude. So fear is not always your foundation, but courage is, because you're learning to self-trust, and you're learning to trust that you will make the right choices and decisions of what your words, actions, and deeds. So self-trust consistently means staying true to yourself. How do you stay true to self if you don't know yourself and if you don't respect yourself? So all those seeds come and feed self-trust. At its very core, trusting yourself means you look after your own needs and safety. You treat yourself with love and compassion rather than strive for perfection. You know deep down that you can survive difficulties and refusing to give up on yourself. You know deep down that you can survive difficulties and refusing to give up on yourself. To plant the seed of self-trust, start choosing what is best for your life and purposeful living. Using your values as a starting point plants this choice. When implementing choices and actions based on your values, this will show that you are a priority in your own life. Because of the time and effort you have taken to know yourself and honour yourself, and thereby your quality of life, you also begin to self-care on a more intimate level. Knowing that you have faith in the choices you make and actions you perform, you begin to trust yourself. Boundaries are important to implement on so many levels to build self-trust. By doing so, you build trust that you'll protect yourself and your energy. Then the trust builds as you comprehend that protecting your energy is your own responsibility, and by how you live your life. By choosing what is best for you, your health, your commitments, your promise, your purposeful living. By practicing self-care, looking after your needs, it seeds self-trust. Boundaries build self-trust. As trust builds too, will your confidence in looking after yourself and being self-responsible and self-reliant, while still maintaining healthy connections and care for your loved ones and commitments. Balance is knowing that you can't be everywhere and do everything at the same time. Balance. The key is to find a balance between what people need from you and what you need for yourself. And boundaries, if you're a parent, you implementing boundaries and doing these steps is you're showing your children also positive habits to embody, because that's how kids learn, by observing and absorbing. And what you do does actually imprint and impact on them. So you setting boundaries and talking healthily and positively around them and the reasons why helps them get to understand and find their own individual selves and know themselves and know that you are separate and a being in yourself. So you're teaching them self-confidence by teaching them self-trust, and self-trust is knowing yourself and getting to know what your boundaries are. And it actually improves your quality of connections by having boundaries. And you can still do it with such an open mind. When I was first, it's like for me, the pendulum swings here and then it's like, oh, bang, swings the other way. Then it comes into the middle, because the only way for me is practicing. Okay, well, did this work? No. Okay, try this. And then the pendulum slowly finds its new balance, its equilibrium. So boundaries, I found that I was butting up against people. I was poking them and I was hard and I was almost inflexible. And then that came across in attitude, frequency, vibration, word, tone. And it was only through the reflecting and seeing that mirrored back that I got to say, well, I still can have boundaries. Well, how can I do this differently? And why do I have these boundaries? And why do I want to implement them? And realizing, well, at the end of the day, it was all about self-love. Love. It wasn't about judgment and resentment, but it was actually about love. I'm like, okay, so with the energy of love behind my boundaries, it becomes a different, well, for me it does, and sometimes it's still awkward out there because I don't, it's a practice. Getting comfortable with boundaries, it's a practice of implementing them and being okay with them. And the more that you do that, the more you actually get comfortable with implementing your boundaries. And that's through practice, trial and error, whatever it is. That energy does change, and so you become more comfortable. So your frequency starts to shift and change, and then that helps other people become more comfortable around you because you're comfortable with your boundaries. It's not a biggie, it just is. And then people don't have such a strong reaction, and if they do, it's like, well, then you know that's not bouncing off you, that's something's been triggered in them. So that's self-trust, is knowing that, is knowing yourself and backing yourself and taking good care of yourself. So it's been a sunny past few days and big weather, big new moon, more changes coming in, and more letting go, and more just letting go. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we can do to help ourselves, is learning to put down and walk away from negative self-talk, whether it's about self or other people. About judging our own energy levels and our body reactions, is just like really start to shift that inner language and look at where you're attached. What are you actually attached to? Thinking a certain way. Why? Are you attached to possessions? Why? What hole does it fill inside you? And realizing that, everything's transient anyway. Everything's just passing by. Nothing's permanent. Nobody gets out alive. It is the only guarantee from the moment of conception, is that we all pass. We're all in line. We don't know where we are in that line. And some people kind of like get a heads up. Some people don't. And it's so sudden, without warning. But it's the only guarantee, and we are so afraid of it. What are we so attached to? What are we so attached to? What is the fear around passing? What is the fear around transitioning out of this experience? And who knows what's on the other side? You can't say either way. So why not be curious about it? I went through a process of checking into that after a few health diagnoses. It does kind of like confront your own mortality, and I've had 3 near-death experiences. So you do it. It shifts your awareness. There's something in your brain that all of a sudden just goes, oh, I see the world differently now because we're mortal. I don't have an infinite amount of time. It's finite time, this experience. And am I living, or what am I doing with my time while I'm here? Because it's going to come for me anyway. Whenever it's going to come for me, it's coming for me, and it's coming for you. It's coming for all of us. So why aren't we living? Why aren't every moment while we're here having this experience, giving it as much as we can, to get as much of it out of it we can, to make it matter, to make it something, to make that difference in your own world and the lives of others? Why not choose to make feeling happy a priority while you're here? That's what I did. I made a promise that I was going to live a healthy, happy life. Not realizing at the time the dimensions and levels that would take me. So to live a healthy, happy life, that was my promise, that was my practice, and that's my perseverance. Just a healthy, happy life. Really simple. But, you know, to live a happy life, you've got to know what makes you happy. And so that's another rabbit hole that you scroll down. And healthy, again, that's another rabbit hole you scroll down when you start to do all the research and watch the docos and read the books and understand about processed foods and live food and herbicides, fungicides, pesticides. You know, they were two rabbit holes I didn't realize, but they have been the biggest game changers of my life, wanting to be healthy and wanting to be happy. And why not? It's why not choose that? You can choose whatever it is that you want to, and you walk yourself towards it. You don't need anyone's permission but your own. You don't need anyone's validation or acknowledgement but your own. And when that kind of like clicks in, and you realize, then all of a sudden a lot of attachments to outside of yourself drop away, because you know that you can fulfill yourself. You can just be happy with how you feel about yourself, and that's a really beautiful thing. So I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll check in a couple of days' time. Just different bird sounds this morning. Going to do some planting. The garden's doing amazing. So are the weeds, but everything's growing. That's the sage. The sage is doing amazing. Everything's getting bigger. We've got some beans and passion fruit, loganberry, carrots, beans, peas, broccoli, cauliflower, cucumber, zucchini, lettuce, beetroot, corn. Putting all those in today. So it's going to be exciting. So have a beautiful week, beings, and I hope this helps, and check in soon. Aho, amen, so mote it be.